Hello class, my name is Hunter Dempsey, and the social activist I chose for my project or my presentation is Fred KOREMATSU. Fred KOREMATSU was born on January 30th, 1919 and raised in Oakland, California. His parents were immigrants from Japan, and they had Fred alongside 3 other children. The name Fred was not given to Mr. KOREMATSU until his elementary school teacher could not pronounce his name, so he called him Fred. He had attended Castlemont High School in Oakland, California, and played tennis along with being on the swim team. Growing up, Fred and his brothers would help their parents run their floral shop, and the family would also attend many samurai movies together and do little outings in Chinatown. Fred and his family became passionate about Christianity as well and attended church every Sunday. Fred was also a very patriotic man who had signed up for the first peacetime draft in 1940. He was denied from doing the Navy radio work, and he had thought he was going to do, and he left and got a new job with the Union at the shipyard in the Bay Area. Fred was climbing up the ranks fast until he was let go because he was a Japanese American in war times. This was just the beginning of a hard road ahead for the KOREMATSU family. And then here is Fred's dad, his mom, Fred himself, and then his 3 brothers here. On December 7th, 1941, Japan had bombed Pearl Harbor with an aerial attack, and the attack had lasted a little less than a couple hours, but had taken the lives of over 2,500 people and destroyed 18 ships, along with over 300 planes. This was one of the most devastating things to ever happen on U.S. soil, and the effect that this had on our nation was very unfortunate. The results of this were to put Japanese Americans in concentration camps because the American people were led to believe that they could have been spies sent from Japan. This event was called Presidential Order 9066 and was signed by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The presidential order basically stated anyone of Japanese descent over the age of 14 is seen as a threat to the United States and will be brought to concentration camps. Fred had decided to not listen to orders and did everything in his power not to go. His family had tried to convince him to leave and with them, but there was no budging. Shortly after this, he knew he had to do something to blend in, so he changed his name from Fred KOREMATSU to Clyde Serra, and then had a surgeon remove parts of his eyelids to make him seem more Caucasian, and then proceeded to claim he was of Hawaiian and Spanish descent. All of this just to avoid these camps. Fred was soon noticed, though, and brought to the courthouse, where he was met with a man who was part of the ACLU, which is the American Civil Liberties Union, and was willing to help him. The judge had ordered for Fred to have bail set at $5,000 and a 5-year probation sentence. His attorney, without hesitation, whipped out his checkbook and paid the money right away so Fred could be a free man again. As soon as he had walked out of the courthouse, though, 4 military police officers were waiting there for him to take him to his concentration camp, which was made up of a bunch of old horse stalls. Fred knew this was just a rock in the road, though, and did not give up on being a free man. And then here you could show this was the bombing on Pearl Harbor. And then here's Mr. KOREMATSU himself. Fred knew this case was not closed and decided to appeal it all the way to the Supreme Court. The High Court had decided to rule against Fred, unfortunately, and the vote was 6-3 not in his favor. This must have been very devastating for Fred to hear, and he did not receive much support, if any at all, from his family, friends, or peers. His family was also very upset with him for getting into so much mischief, even though all he was trying to do was help. After this event, though, Fred and his family had done the rest of their time in the camps, and they were finally released on January 2nd, 1945. When the war was coming to an end, not many heard from Fred until the case was reopened, eventually 40 years later. At first, the court had decided to offer a pardon, which would relieve Fred from all his criminal records. And Fred denied this. Although many would see this as a given and see, well, why not get rid of my criminal records, he instead responded to this with with this saying. As long as my record stands in federal court, any American citizen can be held in prison or concentration camps without a trial or hearing. That is if they look like the enemy of our country. This is a very bold and clever response, to say the least. He fought for his liberty and finally got it after 40 years of fighting. He was awarded the highest civilian medal, which is the Medal of Freedom. This is the medal right here. Fred left us with great knowledge and was a true American hero. Unfortunately, he had passed on March 30th, 2005 from respiratory failure, and may Fred KOREMATSU rest in peace. And here is a few pictures. So this was when Fred got his medal, I believe in 1998, awarded to him by Bill Clinton. Here's a famous quote from Fred: "Stand up for what is right." Another famous quote from Fred: "One person can make a difference, even if it takes 40 years." And then here's a Fred from when he was younger, and then Fred right before he had passed. Thank you.